Okay, so um I'm gonna try to make some videos that I guess maybe people wouldn't consider depressing. Not that I really care because I just talk about real stuff. People can say that I'm bitter and angry and all that, but honestly, I don't really know about the bitter part. I definitely am upset about stuff, especially more so stuff that happens to other people that I know. Because I mean, yeah, I'm still not in the most ideal situation because I'm in a position where I'm still pretty much treated like crap by society because I'm quote unquote the bad guy at the bottom of the caste system. But this is definitely the most ideal my life has been. The whole living outside part, that's not even the bad thing. That's actually irrelevant compared to the common narratives that are pushed about that. But that's a side topic. But I do want to talk about something that I do feel like I probably mentioned before, but I want to speak on more. That's really a good thing. But I'm still going to talk about the cons though. Because like a lot of people, they want this sugar-coated, watered-down stuff. And you know, I'm not one of those people. Like a lot of people, they make nomadic life sound like it's like the best thing ever, even though like still the reason people end up out here, which is because of escaping abuse or being dumped out. It's not a good thing, but it's like they make like, that's not even really the point. Really what I'm trying to say is like they make them living nomadically, quote unquote, sound like it's the best thing ever and kind of like they're having the time of their life, which I get why, because like especially if you want to like make money from content and you want people to like give back good feedback or give good feedback or whatever, you don't want to like say the bad parts or even anything controversial. And me personally, everything I say is always going to be controversial. I don't care about any of that stuff. But of course you're not going to do that, so of course they're going to give like this little sugar-coated stuff, but like they make it seem like they have the time of their life, but they have to run around with chomos and stuff just to like get support and basic needs. And I mean, I get that, because to be truthfully honest, as I always talk about, quote-unquote safe and healthy people don't quote-unquote help people. The person that's going to run to go help somebody and is going to be the most caring is going to be some predatory person. That's just reality. I'm not saying that there aren't any nice people, but there's very few of them. As far as the whole good person thing, I don't really believe or subscribe to that. I mean, some people will run, I mean, I would never run around saying I'm a good person. I don't even like the sound of that, to be honest. But anybody could be a nice person. In fact, you could be a very abusive person and still be a nice person, because that's also just how people are. Not even just because of splits and MPDs with all the trauma-based mind control everybody's under, but just the fact that people have both light and dark and different sides and all that. But that's kind of another topic. The point is, I'm still going to give the cons because I'm just going to be grounded in reality. I don't like all that weird fake stuff. But anywho, to get to the point. So, one of the first things that I'm pretty sure I mentioned before is that when you get dumped out or escape your abuse situation, especially to like go into like, I guess I could say the real world, which is something that really a lot of people never experience. It's like really you have to experience a lot of things that are considered bad or not ideal or traumatizing to really actually experience the real world. Like I've said before, people who don't leave the house, and of course the 1% of people that actually had healthy, decent enough family systems, they don't actually understand how actually screwed up the world actually is and how mean people actually are. And I think, well, not I think, that's very much one of the other things that is the big reason why people who are full-blown visibly homeless, where people can actually tell and want to be like mean to them, that's also another reason why they're gonna eventually become schizo-narcs or split into whatever form of schizo, because you're just like constantly you're constantly exposed to so many realities of the world. And it even kind of reminds me of this boy in Slab City. He was talking to some of the older Slab City dudes, and he was saying something about how, like, he heard that kids in Slab City mature faster than kids out in the real world. And it's kind of interesting that he refers to it like that as well, because it also makes you think about, like, well, is Slab City not considered more so the real world than, like, the outside? But I could get that, though, because it is kind of like, I mean, sure, plenty of people there identify as atheists, supposedly, and Satanists and stuff like that. But, I mean, ever since I first seen the Salvation Mountain thing, way before I ever went or even thought I would go, I always saw it as like a Christian cult of some sort, which I've still yet to really make that full video, but that's another topic. But anywho, that's what it also makes you think about. Like, I would say that they're actually, I mean, I could definitely see how people wouldn't consider that the real world, but it's like when people also consider the real world is often still the Matrix and career type stuff, but they're still exposed constantly to like a lot of interesting things, to say the least. But I don't know. Anywho, you're exposed to a lot of the real world and still continuous, pretty much being targeted, I guess I could say. Like, the targeting and the abuse really never stops. People say it does, but it doesn't. But the good side to that is that one of the things about being in the real world, especially if you just escape the cult or whatever form of trafficking or a cult, Jezebelic family system or whatever, or maybe you got dumped out. When you're out in the real world and not just like locked up in some, I don't know, building or prison being tortured and tied to beds or whatever, you also do get to see that there actually are people out there that like actually like you. And even thinking back to the situation with the Nova girl and other people that have ran to like those types of communities like Slab City, sure, people will say that like of course you're going to feel accepted in a place like that because that's the place where anything goes, but it's like in general when you get out here, especially when you find safe people and safe enough people, I guess, because like everybody's pretty much half safe anywhere, then like you actually get to feel some type of like love and connection that you never would feel with like the abusive people you were around or the cult you were in or the traffickers that you were either taken by, like, I don't know, maybe CPS or just you were born in to some type of trafficking organization. You actually get to see that, like, not everybody hates you. And that's something that I especially experienced when I originally went to Cali. Like, I was even taking classes and going to these different, like, programs that, honestly, most of them are very exploitative, but it's still not even the point, because I'm not going to go back into that. It's still, like, yeah, I was working for free, but it's like, I just got to see the reality that I actually could do things. I was good at a lot of things, or I was reminded that I was good at a lot of things. And I got to see people that weren't, like, constantly gaslighting me and just constantly, like, being targeted and just being abused and tortured for no reason, pretty much, and watching other people be abused and tortured for no reason. And it's like, the safe I ever felt was actually in those classes. Like, I was reminded that I just wasn't somebody that just deserved to be, like, treated like crap all the time. And I especially liked my teachers as well, which that's a long story. I kind of mentioned this before, actually, in my video that's titled, I think is, I don't even really remember, but I'll put it in the description. But I know that the screenshot, the thumbnail is a screenshot of a message that somebody sent me that revolved around this whole situation with my mom trying to, like, make up reasons why I couldn't get a job, but I found out that the real reason was because she got SSDI for me, and she was worried that it would get turned off for me getting the job. And also the other thing was, of course, the fact that Jezebel spirit people teach you to be dependent or really codependent on them, and they don't want you to work a job or any of that because they don't want you to ever be able to leave. And so pretty much somebody was like, your mom's saying that you have an attitude problem and stuff like that, and that's why you can't get a job, or the whole you're retarded thing. Those are just manipulation tactics to keep you from getting a job and being able to live life in the stereotypical sense, pretty much, to make a long story short. Another thing that goes hand in hand with that, other than like finally feeling accepted and also being around people that have similar experiences to you, which for me personally, being out here is my first time having that. And that's something that I ran into all the time on the Cash for Kids system and human cash cow system branches that I'm technically still a part of. And then also online spaces, of course. But having people do things for you that parents and family wouldn't do and never have done, or just usually wouldn't do, whatever in the world. So like, for example, having a random person, like, I don't know, just do something nice to you, like get you a coat, cook you something to eat, get you your favorite food, go to the park with you, take you fishing. This wasn't something that I wanted at all whatsoever, and I don't plan on having to use one or even needing to do this, but even though it was really trifling to a certain extent, still having like some lady some months ago show me how to use a condom that I didn't want to know or plan on needing to know. I don't remember anything she showed me, but just stuff like that. Things that your parents especially, and family, but especially parents should have done or should be doing that they wouldn't, couldn't, and didn't do. And having like random people go out of their way to like be kind and do those things for you. Like, that's something else that also kind of shows you the bright side. And it's like, yeah, you're still gonna pretty much still be getting treated like crap by most people, or just like maybe just even ignored, which I feel like being in places where most people avoid eye contact and just kind of act like you're not there is better than like being in places where people are constantly calling the police on you for no reason and stuff like that. Although one of the good things is that I'm also in a place or area, well, yeah, I guess place, where due to my age, people don't expect me to be homeless. So like, even if I'm looking pretty homeless, people are either going to assume that I'm not, and that I'm just outside all the time, or I have whatever going on with a family, or that I'm way older than I actually am. So there's that. And also just being in a place with a lower homeless population, where people aren't used to dirty kids / street kids, it's a lot better for a lot of reasons. And I mean, yeah, in places where like there's already little homeless, or at least little people like visibly homeless outside on the streets, or in the woods, sometimes that does make it to where like law enforcement and just the community want to work hard to keep homeless people out. So like, they want to make sure that they don't start getting any, and so like if they do see one, they'll like put them on a bus to somewhere to try to make sure they don't start having people living outside. But that's not really what's going on here. There was that whole thing that happened some months ago where like police were after me on one side of town, but that's because they were helping a serial R-word and Chomo sexually harassed me. So that was still a different situation, but it still didn't fall from me being seen as vulnerable and easy to take advantage of and do stupid stuff to. But that was still way different than my usual run-in situation with law enforcement that I'm used to. But pretty much it's like you do get to see that even though like things are really, really bad and the world is how it is, you still do get to see that there's like an actual reality outside of the cult or cash for kids system or human cash cow system placement or placements that you were being brainwashed in to feel like you were just this horrible person or whatever. And you do get to see that, like, there are people out there that actually just see you as a person and that actually don't all hate you and stuff like that. And, you know, one thing I always say is that definitely people don't give a crap about each other. But another side to it is that there's the Lucifer effect, there's flying monkeys, there's enablers, and there's also the fact that a lot of people, especially in America, because it's an individualistic society, a lot of people are really just indifferent to you and what you have going on. Like, I met some people from France, or family from France, and they moved here because pretty much, apparently people in France, like, really hate disabled people, and the mom, like, is in a wheelchair, and people are trying to get her kids put in CPS because they feel like she didn't deserve to have kids because she's disabled and can't walk, and because she has a husband as well, and they also felt like he's crazy for getting with a disabled woman, and due to all that, they were trying to, like, get her kids put in CPS because they felt like they deserve to be, or they should be with a family where the mom isn't in a wheelchair. And I mean, I have heard that America and France are the most narcissistic people, but overall, what was I going to say with that? Oh yeah, they said that they like it here more because the mentality is different. I don't even really think it's about that. I just think that, like, people are really indifferent to what they have going on, and people wouldn't care even if they were actually abusive, which they're not. But even if they were actually abusive and their kids, like, well, CPS shouldn't exist, but if their kids did need help, quote unquote help, people wouldn't really care regardless to even go out of their way to report them and to work hard to try to get their kids taken away. Although people did work hard due to racial bullcrap to try to keep them from helping me. So people are indifferent to a certain extent. And it's kind of funny too, because, like, if they would have told the wrong person, especially in their community that they lived in, that they, like, wanted to help me or in whatever ways, or they just wanted to, like, be a friend to me, and they would have told people that they were bringing a homeless black kid around their kids, like, if they would have told that to the wrong person, or, like, if the kids would have told the school that, then, yeah, somebody probably would have called CPS and tried to get their kids taken away. So, but overall, people are mostly, like, indifferent and don't really care about what people have going on. So there's that side to that, but I'm trying to think of something else. Oh yeah, my health getting better. One, I was able to get away from gaslighting and even toxic positivity. The people, like, try to make me feel like I needed to, like, not say that I'm sick and not say that I'm in pain, and I was just complaining. And even though, like, it's a miracle that I am and was alive, because I was having blood sugars in the 50s and lower, I was extremely malnourished. I dropped down to 80 pounds at 14 when I went from pretty much iatrogenic brain and organ damage induced type 2 to type 1 pretty much. And I've been stuck there ever since, and I had really bad pelvic floor dysfunction from the low blood sugar and the bacterial overgrowth from not being able to digest food for so long, which caused fermentation and leaky gut, just all types of stuff. Mold toxicity, because most buildings, or pretty much all buildings, have mold. And poor indoor air quality. I was just really, really sick. There was a lot of stuff going on with it. Like, I would fall asleep standing straight up. I was always falling asleep. I was being gaslit about it. I even have had people recently tell me, like, I needed to be positive and not say that I'm sick. But it's like, if I pretend that I'm not sick, one, that means I'm not going to work on my health or do anything to, like, fix or manage or cure my health issues, which would just lead to nothing but death anyways, because I'm miraculously even alive. And it's like, just getting out that situation, one, being outside just helps with my issues so much. Like, since I have I'm trying to remember what it's called. I can't really remember. ANS damage. I can't remember if it's anatomic or anatonic. I don't even remember, but nervous system damage pretty much, as well as other brain damage and neurological damage and stuff that happened from my abuse and the drugging. It really affects, like, a lot of things, especially with me producing enough insulin, because I don't produce enough, and my beta cells are low. And due to the gaslighting and stuff, I've never been able to get put on insulin, but I would just be rationing it, and I wouldn't have enough money or be in the situation really for it. And I'm sure doctors already know that, like, when you're on insulin and you already can't afford it and you're in a bad situation, you're going to be rationing, and you're just going to you're going to become dependent on it, and then you're going to die because you can't get enough of it. So that wouldn't have went well anyways. But I do know that I wouldn't have got as sick as I have if I would have been put on insulin. And of course I would never been put on the drugs anyways. And still, I mean, my issues would probably completely clear up after a while if I was put on insulin. But getting away, or mostly getting away from gaslighty people, they helped me actually start to work on my health. Like, I remember when I would go to the Youth Resource Center in Cali, one of my case managers, or my second case manager, because the manager was trifling and she would make a lot of people quit and fire people for no reason. One day, as usual, I walked in there in like excruciating pain. My toes were balled up because I wear slides all the time. My fists were balled up. I was grinding my teeth, and I guess I had whatever look on my face, and I was really stiff. Because I used to be in crazy amounts of pain. Like, I couldn't digest food. At that point in time, I had diarrhea a lot. Like, I was always throwing up and having diarrhea, which was really bad. And of course, in a place where the white attic projection, as I call it, stuff is really bad there, people are just going to say, oh, you're just having, they used to call it heroin, SHITs, and then there was this discriminatory thing that people were saying homeless people had called Shingilla, which is really coming from the dogs, to be honest, but that's a whole nother story. But people would just pretty much see me as like the sick homeless person, or just, of course, somebody that's just like, I don't know, I guess lying because I'm homeless or whatever, or I'm just sick because I'm homeless. But I've talked about that stuff before, which goes into how, like, in every situation, people have a new excuse to gaslight you or treat you like crap. And it's like the same thing, but they just keep making up a new excuse. Because as I talked about before, when I was staying with relatives, when I was in North Carolina, the doctors and stuff never said anything about anything. They never, like, said anything or questioned, like, my weight or any of that. When I went to GA, they did, but they still didn't do anything. They even, like, made up these ideas in their head, which mostly revolved around their own perverse, sexual, weird accusations. Some of them were accusations about me being a hoe. I even had, like, this one cash for kid system staff, like, accuse me of not knowing how to wipe my butt, but actually, because she was trying to say that I just had a UTI, that, like, just a bunch of weird sexual stuff, and even gave me, like, accusations about why I was in the shower so long, and different stuff like that. But what I found out was that some of those symptoms of, like, the bladder pain and stuff was because of poor kidney function, and I actually have protein and calories and all types of stuff spilling into my urine, which is kind of another story, but that's more so called interstitial cystitis or something like that. And then there was the accusation that I was just being sodomized and essayed, and I was just being starved and all types of stuff. But of course they didn't do anything because they didn't care. But then when I left my situation, then I was just like, oh, the accusation was maybe you're just on drugs, or maybe you're just not sick at all, and maybe you're just starving yourself because you're homeless and mentally ill, and different stupid stuff like that. So there was that. And it's like, when I walked into the Youth Resource Center and the case manager saw me, she was like, you look like you're in a lot of pain right now. And then I, like, tried to pretend that I wasn't. I was like, no, I'm not. And she was like, it's okay if you're in pain, and is there any reason that you feel like you have to pretend that you're not in pain? And I noticed that, like, due to people's toxic positivity and different stuff like that, with people that are religious and even people that aren't, it's like, people want you to do a lot of, like, acting. It's a lot of, like I said in that last video, it's a lot of you're not trying hard enough, and just different narratives like that, where people just want you to, like, or pretty much, like, if you're in reality, people try to do the whole, oh, you're depressed and you're suicidal, you're a Debbie Downer, you're negative, for being in reality. If I wouldn't have stopped like letting people gaslight me about how sick I actually was, especially at that point in time, I would still be walking around having diarrhea and throwing up on myself and in pain. Like, I would wake up in the middle of the night with like explosive diarrhea, having to throw up because I couldn't digest food, being bloated. I would get really itchy. This still happens sometimes if I eat certain stuff because I still can't break down fat or protein. But when I have ox bile, which I don't anymore because my stuff went missing on Thanksgiving night, which is another story. But if I take ox bile like 2 hours or so after eating, it like helps with a lot of stuff and like cleaning out the digestive system and breaking down fat and protein to where I'm not like itchy all night, having to pee, and it's really weird, but it comes from not being able to break down fat and protein, to summarize. But there's different things like that. Liver issues, actually, is gallbladder and liver issues from the ANS. And I feel like it's more about the brain damage and even the organ damage and stuff like that. And what was I going to say with that? But oh yeah, to get back to the point though, it's like actually having people like really admit that I was like as sick as I actually was, and I'm definitely way better now, but still kind of am, and it definitely was helpful because it helped me to actually start fixing my issues. Like, I cured my SIBO, LIBO, all that stuff that I had going on with that and the bacterial overgrowth with animal meds actually, and I actually was lucky to be able to come in contact with the animal meds because pretty much like places would donate stuff to the shelter, and in Cali, most of the homeless people have multiple dogs or at least one, and so people would donate dog parasite cleanses and dog food and stuff, and there was a box of dog parasite cleanses just like sitting outside, and I got 2. I was scared to take it at first, but after a couple of days I was like, I might as well try it. I either don't want to be in constant pain anymore or I do. Because, you know, people try to like, the mainstream medical system tries to fearmonger people about fixing their issues, and I took one. It was a weaker one. I don't remember if it was the Next Guard or the Tri-Heart Plus, but one of them had Ivor in it, and it was stronger and also more milligrams. That's the one I took the second time. The first one wiped out some of my issues. The second one, once I took that, I never had any of that pain again. I used to be in constant stomach pain. I saw spine and joint type issues from like the blood sugar stuff and just not producing enough insulin. Supposedly I have arthritis and DDD, which is degenerative disc disease. And I mean, I've had that for like years on end before I was told I did. But I don't really know like about the DDD thing. I still do feel like if I just was given insulin, I wouldn't have those issues and it would just go away after a while. But yeah, so that all helped, and it's just like really crazy. Like, I used to be in constant pain, and it just felt like there was like a civil war going on in my stomach. And of course, bacterial overgrowth, they spread. They go up your esophagus, and then that causes tonsil infections, which I had one of those for years. And then the malnutrition screwed up my oral health, my gums, and my teeth in general. But it's better now, though. In fact, when I was a lot younger, since I often wouldn't have like toothpaste, or my dad would accidentally like use my toothbrush and different stuff like that. I know this is gonna sound like crazy to most people, but when I was like in early elementary, I would like brush my teeth with soap. And honestly, I started doing that again because that actually makes my oral health better. I know people are going to say what they're going to say, but that honestly, like, when I used to do that every day, that was like the best my oral health ever was. So there's that. Then what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, and then like, as I always say, I always saw myself living outside, more so in the woods, since I was 6. And I saw myself escaping my situation right before the tribulation really started to take off. And I always knew that, like, if I started sleeping outside, I would get good sleep. not even just because of all the sleep deprivation abuse I went through since 8, but also because, like, sleeping indoors is just always really hard. Like, it's hard to really go to sleep before, like, 5 a.m. and stuff like that indoors. It's like, the artificial light, the poor indoor air quality, the mold, all that stuff. And it's like, I know when I was maybe 14 or 15, I started sleeping behind this church. And I got the best sleep I ever did in my life. And I just felt way better outside. And I thought that, like, I had a lot of people making it just, like, about the spiritual side to, like, my abuse situation, making me feel like I just felt better away from the house because of that. But actually, due to how my health had gotten, I just really couldn't take the poor indoor air quality and mold and all that stuff that's inside of houses or buildings in general, but especially houses. Houses have the worst air quality. Like, the most polluted air is inside the house. And especially places that are actually made for people to be continuously living in, that's where the air quality is the worst. Like, air quality is even better in a hotel than in a house or an apartment. And it's actually crazy, but it's done by design. American buildings are really cheap anyways, although that's kind of like a side thing. But, you know, you can't punch a wall, or you can't punch a hole in a wall in Africa or Europe or any of those places like you can in America. And you don't fall through your floor and fall through your neighbor's ceiling through the bathroom and stuff like that. But anywho, what was the other thing with that? Oh yeah, but it's like my health just got better in general. And I mentioned this before, especially my playlist about had enough, you have mitochondrial dysfunction. Like, I've no longer been anemic. I'm supposedly no longer malnourished, but I don't really know how true that is. I mean, my digestion has definitely gotten better since working on it, but it's like, I still can only break down stuff so much, or really more so, due to the mitochondrial dysfunction. There's issues with the cells, and like still the fat isn't like getting into the cells and different things like that also keeps me from being able to gain weight. So all that stuff. But what was the other thing with that? Oh yeah, my vitamin D is no longer low, if I didn't already say that. And it's like also, like whenever I had the blurry vision from like the blood sugar issues and stuff, which gets really bad indoors, and I also think it's because like when you're indoors, you spend most of your time in there, when you're staying indoors anyways. Like, you spend a lot of time sitting down or laying down. When you have these types of issues, it causes like, it worsens your circulation, or really you have circulation issues, and so you can't spend all your time sitting down or laying down or sitting inside of a house. It causes sugar and all types of stuff to build up in places. But when I come outside and I walk around, especially when it's sunny, like it just helps my vision like clear back up, and like things aren't blurry, and my pupils, if they're dilated or if they're like shrunk, whatever that's called, they like go back to regular size, and it just helps with a lot of stuff living outside. And like I have a lot of people try to tell me the usual fear monger and that my health is gonna get bad. First of all, I was already severely chronically ill before I came out here, so like that's kind of whatever, but my health actually has done nothing but gotten better. And yeah, some elements like the hot and the cold do affect like the joint issues, but I mean that was already there though, so that's gonna be whatever anyways. And even if I did like stay with someone or whatever in the world, like I would still have to leave the house sometimes, so it's still be whatever. And then I think that was pretty much it. I could be wrong, but something else that I could add in. So I've mentioned a lot lately the whole thing where like people are made to feel like, especially after getting out, that like a lot of things change. And depending on your mindset and what type of situation you throw yourself into, and if you're even able to like actually really lay low and just try to blend in or not be seen once you get out here. I mean, sure, you're not like in constant change anymore. I mean, not constant change, constant torture. But nothing really changes, because being out here is constant change. I mean, really, that's what life is for most of us who end up out here, and the constant wasn't good anyways. There's just like one person said in the vagabond group, the only normal is constant change or something like that. Because that's how things are when you're constantly like having to be nomadic or whatever in the world you want to call it. But it's like, yeah, you're not like in constant torture necessarily. Like you're not like literally having people constantly coming at you, doing abusive things to you, and like locked in a room. Which is another thing, because since the people who end up out here from getting dumped out or having to escape a situation, most of us, we see the freedom in it. And I mean, I even saw the freedom in being outside before I was like living outside full time, because we're so used to like being contained and locked up and abused pretty much. And one of the things you do get out here is freedom. If you don't get anything else, you get control over your environment. Just like a dude told me in Birmingham, Alabama a few years ago. I think it was in early 2023. You're never stuck anywhere, you just can't walk down the highway. But then I had someone else tell me, you can walk down the highway, but you just can't walk down the freeway, or something like that. I don't have the health for any of that anyways. Haven't in a long, well not a long time, but I haven't in some years. So that wouldn't work out for me anyways. But I mean, I would hope that I wouldn't have to end up walking down a freeway. But I mean, I'd rather do that than hitchhike. But I understand why a lot of people hitchhike though, especially if they already have a group of people that they're with and a dog or something, because like I still would never do it because I know how people are. I'm not even in an area where most people would even go for that. If I was to even do that, most people, or 99% of people, will keep driving. But there's a lot I could say about that. But anywho, I mean, it's free, supposedly, sometimes, I guess. But anywho, it's just like with the whole being made to feel like you just have to hold on to dear life till 18 or even till way older than that. Like, a lot of people are made to feel like something's really going to change. But sometimes the most you get is freedom and less abuse. And a lot of people just end up having to be content with that. And then, what else was I going to say with that? And I mention this all the time. That one interview that I don't even think is still up anymore, with the Nova girl from Sci-Fi Underbelly, when she had said that she used to always say she can't wait till 18, of course, to be able to like enroll herself in school and not have to worry about the missing persons reports and stuff like that. And she was like, I used to say that all the time, but then I really thought about it and I was like, nothing's going to change at 18. And she was like 13, 12 or something when she said that. Something like that. And it's like, I mean, yeah, people do try to make it seem like it's going to be like 100% good once you get out, but most of the people who are in these types of situations obviously don't have anybody, which is why they're having to escape or get dumped out anyways, or they're, well, CPS kidnaps people, so I can't really say that. But most of the people don't have anybody, and it's kind of like, since you don't have anyone, you don't have anywhere to go, and you don't know anyone's safe, honestly, things are just kind of likely to just continuously go downhill, or just eventually just lose your mind and become schizo, or a schizo-nerd. Because still, you're always going to be faced with the reality that nobody actually gives a crap about you, or really anybody. And I mean, yeah, you're going to meet the nice people like I was saying, but the bad outweighs the good. Like, I don't know if I did it or not. I think I did, but I don't know. But I wanted to mention in the video how, like, I mean, I already knew that when I was a lot younger, I had age regression. Like, I had this baby bottle thing that I used to like when I was, it was like a candy thing. Candy came in it, but I would, like, just drink out of it and stuff. And that was my coping mechanism when I was 8 and younger, which I did like the research, so like I did know that it was like a regression coping mechanism, but I haven't had anything like that in a while. But I still kind of wonder if like now I'm just regressing, because I feel like to a certain extent, even though I would have died because my health was getting so bad and I was being gaslit about it, I was kind of better off in an abuse situation, because it had me in like this constant survival mode and like trying to take care of myself and others. And even though really my health was getting so bad, that's one of the things about it, I wasn't allowed to work anyways really. And I've always like entrepreneur stuff, I still do, but it's like I did realize that there wasn't really going to be much I would even be able to do for myself after a while when it comes to even trying to get like a regular job, because my health was so bad, and due to the brain damage and metabolic and blood sugar issues and stuff, I was falling asleep every 2 seconds standing straight up, as I think I already mentioned actually, and a whole bunch of other stuff. In fact, that's kind of irrelevant. The real thing was the constant pain, although that's not anywhere near like how it used to be anymore. But what point was I getting at with that? I think I was saying like, oh yeah, I feel like I'm regressing, and I'm not really sure if it is really regression though, or just me actually wanting to do age appropriate things, because it's like now, since getting out and not like being in constant survival mode and focusing on just surviving, although I do feel like life is still just pretty much just getting to the next day. I think a lot of people feel like that for a lot of reasons, especially since time is sped up in the end, or else even the very elect wouldn't be saved or something like that. So like since the veil thinning and stuff like that, and the dimensional shifts, time's been sped up since 2019. So things go by too fast anyways, but the point is, well, I guess that's a good thing, but the point is, like now all I think about is just like boyfriends and wanting someone to play with me, or more so play video games, and I feel like it just sounds like really laughable. Not that I was ever really all that good with people my age anyways, because it's like, I mean, I have these dreams about getting to go to high school and stuff. People say that like it means like stagnation and lack and poverty and a lot of other bad spiritual things, and I mean I get that, but there's definitely other side with me, because it's like, oh crap, I think it's starting to rain, or that's my visual snow syndrome, hopefully. But a lot of people that like talk about that side of it though, they're like in their 30s and 40s and stuff. And then it's also still, as I talk about all the time, street kids aren't seen as kids. And then the other side of just like always being told that like you're grown even when you're really not, in the sexual sense, in a non-sexual, perverse, manipulative way that people like to do. And so it's all just really confusing, because it's like, well, am I really supposed to think this way, or am I supposed to be like thinking something else? Oh dang, it's definitely raining. I didn't know it was gonna rain today. And so now it's like, I don't know, I just want someone to play video games with me. I mean, that's not really, I mean, well, it is kind of new, but it's like, is that really regression, or am I just finally having the opportunity to focus on things that I should be, or maybe should have been focused on? Because it's like, I don't know, and I've been having this midlife crisis for months on end now, and then my birthday doesn't make it any better, but I guess it's kind of whatever though. And what else was it? But yeah, I just feel like I was just more focused on like the stereotypical career matrix, quote unquote, doing what you're supposed to do things, when I was in the cash for kids system in the abuse situation. And I think a lot of people, well, not I think, a lot of people are like that. In fact, it even reminds me of a meme that I saw some years ago that I had showed someone. And it was like a picture of like a little kid who was definitely like probably younger than 10, with a cape on at the park or something like that. And then I can't remember what the other picture was, but the captions were me when I was younger in my abuse versus me now. And it's like, it's not even just about the aggression side, it's also like you have to do a lot more performing and trying to fight to survive when you're in a constant torture. But once you get out and you're calm and at peace, most of the time, or 99% of the time, when you become homeless after getting dumped out, running away, whatever, then it's like you're not in that fight or flight mode. Which, like I said, I like the way that Nova Black talks about it in her video about it, which I've shared a couple times in a couple other videos. And that's really the reality. That also makes the fearmongering that people do really funny, because it's like people try to fearmonger you and make you feel like you're gonna get out here and you're gonna die or something's gonna happen to you. But honestly, this is the most peaceful life actually gets. And I feel like, aside from the fact that there is no help and the trauma and different stuff like that, that's another one of the reasons that people can easily get stuck out here, because it's just like you're finally at peace enough, more than you ever have been at any other point in your life. And it almost seems as though I wouldn't even say I was more productive. I really couldn't be productive, but I kind of wanted to be more productive when I was in constant torture than like now. And like other people I know who are still in their abuse situations, like they focus on working and those different things like that. And I think the unfortunate thing is that when you're really young in your abuse, or even if you're not really, just when you're still in your abuse in general, for like a while you're like more productive. But I started to realize more and more how regressed and developmentally delayed I was. Really by 12, like even physically, I remember that point in time where like this was before like, well, this was like at the time where I was dropping down to 80 pounds, but it was before like all the pain and the serious health complications, like visibly physically, or I guess physically, really started to get bad. Like all the pain and the weird stuff kicked in. And I remember like I had this joke with myself, I guess, that I still have, about how like everybody else had glowed up and I had glowed down. Like people that used to be way shorter than me were now way taller than me, and of course now they're even more taller than me, and I'm still like 80 pounds, and apparently I'm not even as tall as I was getting told I was for years back when I used to wear shoes. Apparently I'm 5'0" at the most, which I mean I'd rather be 5'0" and 80 pounds than 5'3" and 80 pounds. But it's kind of whatever though, I guess. But that also goes hand in hand with that somewhat, kind of. But I don't know, like I still feel like maybe I'm just finally thinking about age-appropriate things, but of course, due to my situation and me being visibly in the situation that I'm in, I'm still gonna like have some people make me feel like that's not the mind frame I should be in. Because of course, some people feel like if you're this young and you're already in this situation, you're a lost cause, and or that means you need to like do a whole bunch of things that nobody would ever expect out of somebody your age and even people older because you need to fix your situation. That's what people think. It's so funny though, people never say that when you're in the abuse situation. People only say you need to fix your situation once you're finally in a better situation. Like a lot of people think that being outside is like the bad thing, but that isn't the bad thing whatsoever. It's just still getting treated like crap by people, and just still how people are. There's something else I wanted to add in. Okay, so, LOL, because I kind of finally remembered it. This is actually the really main important part that I've really been thinking a lot about. It kind of makes me think about when someone said that, like, one of the things with them in religion is that they kind of felt like, since they grew up in, I think a cult and a whole bunch of other abuse and stuff like that, they wanted to hold on and keep trying really hard to hold on because they had this idea in their head that eventually they'd be rewarded for being tortured. It almost even kind of reminds me of some other post that someone made that I really feel is kind of like, I mean, I get what they mean, but it's still really like victim-y. But they were like, you go through all this hell and you don't even get a reward or what else do they say, like a pat on the back, something like that. And I mean, I get it, but it still sounds victim-y. But honestly, it still does make sense. It even makes me think about something I seen in the BPD group a couple years ago, where somebody was like, does anybody else ever wish that like your situation would have been worse, or maybe that you just would have like passed away so that way people would actually care and you'd be on the news? But honestly though, none of that stuff is real, because people are just pretending to care. If they really cared, they would have helped. It's like, it's all just so fake to where thinking like that isn't even worth it. But anywho, to get back to the point there, so I've been also having like this mental crisis, I guess I could I don't think that's a good term for it, but I've been having something like that, because it's like, I think for a lot of us, like, we just spend so many years holding on, being gaslit, being tortured, being lied to, having people play games with us and all of that stuff. And we just spend like most of our life like just hoping to get out the bad situation one day. Then it's like, once you finally escape, it's kind of like, okay, so what do I live for? In fact, no, because this reminds me of something I seen in a CPTSD group some years ago as well. It reminds me of a post that somebody made where they were like, I spent my whole life surviving to where now I don't feel like there's anything that I'm really good at, and the only thing I'm good at is surviving, and surviving abuse and horrible situations. Like, it even makes you think about how people get so used to fight or flight, they like have to run to more abuse and stuff like that. Because it's like, one of the things about being out here, it really does also, I mean, I already knew this, like most of us already have like issues, or not even issues, really it's a gift, but maladaptive daydreaming and different things like that since like our entire life. But especially once you get out here and you're not like being constantly abused and stuff anymore, it's really boring. It's like, I've even had or seen people say before in like vagabond groups and stuff, being homeless is really boring. It's like, you're not being abused anymore, you're not fighting for your life anymore. Literally the only thing you have to do is talk to yourself, maladaptive daydreams, laugh at your own jokes, stuff that you were already doing before you were out here anyways. But like I seen someone else say, which was actually really interesting, because I thought that I was the only person that felt this way. If you don't already talk to yourself before getting out here, you will start after. So there's that. That also goes into the whole loneliness side, but that's another video, to be honest. But I don't know, I already had issues with thinking out loud and stuff anyways. And there's not really anything else to do. Like, another coping mechanism I've had my entire life, or, well, yeah, pretty much, is freestyling to myself in my head. I even seen a video, this was a long time ago, of a lady showing how, like, when she has maladaptive daydreams, it's actually visible, like, her eyes, the direction she's looking in, her kind of moving her mouth when, like, answering questions in the maladaptive daydreams. And I always kind of worried if people could, like, tell stuff like that, but I've realized, especially since I started wearing the Mario hat I have, because I've never worn a hat at any other point in my life, that, like, it's very visible that I'm often, like, walking around bobbing my head and just different stuff like that, because the hat will fall off sometimes. And yeah, so there's that, because I freestyle to myself all the time, and that's another good coping mechanism. And then, of course, since people aren't safe, you have to, like, talk to your splits, and, well, I wouldn't even say that, like, it's actually purposeful. One of the big things with CPTSD, which I've even made on the video, like, over a year ago, somebody talking about how they accidentally agreed to a schizophrenia diagnosis because, for one, they didn't know that everybody hears thoughts in their head. Two, as I know, one of the things with being wired differently in general, and also CPTSD, not that I really like to claim labels like that, but I did used to identify with this, is that you're always going to have, like, an internal dialogue going And then like with the multiples and the fractures and stuff, you're gonna have like your quote unquote inner child talking. And in fact, one thing that I noticed in me is that often it'll say things like nobody wants to play with me because I'm not good enough, or what was the other thing? This is just how I feel in general right now. Nobody wants to be my parent because I'm not a good kid. Different things like that. That you yourself and just the inner child and the multiples or splits or whatever will say all the time. But like that's also another thing as well. As people may know, many people don't like to be alone because then they have to like hear their own thoughts. Although I'm too used to it to not like it. But they have to always have music playing and different stuff like that. And that also goes into like why making videos became even more of a coping mechanism. Which I did make videos, or I have made videos since I was 7 or something like that. But of course, after the abuse evidence channels, I just got more used to making YouTube videos. And one of the things about it is that the maladaptive daydreams and the multiples, I'm always talking to myself in my head, and the inner dialogue never stops. And the videos are actually a good way to like cope with that, because there's no one to really, I mean, I won't say there's no one, but you can't really talk to most people about this type of stuff. And what else was it? Crap, hold up. Because I was saying hey to somebody and then I forgot what I was saying. Then the other thing was that nobody's safe to talk to about these things. Most people are living in denial and la la land, so they just don't want to hear about it, even if they know what you're saying is true. And people want to dump on you, but they don't want it to be the other way around, or even just to have a conversation. Not even just the whole dumping or quote unquote trauma dumping bullcrap. Not even just that term. What else? I don't know. It's like it just helps me to get all the thoughts and the dialogues out of my head and somewhere else. And typically by the time I get to the recorder or camera or whatever, I've already forgotten everything that the dialogue is saying or was saying. Okay, I still feel like I actually didn't really say the like main thing that I've been thinking about. So it's kind of like when your whole life has literally been about just getting to the next day, hoping and praying to get out of a situation and to escape your abuse situation. And then once you're finally out here, I mean, you're still like on edge and stuff, especially when you're still laying low. But then after that, it's kind of like, okay, so now what? Because like literally all I ever wanted was to get out. My whole life has been about just getting out. And now I don't know what to do. And there's not really anything that I can do or anyone that I can go to. And now it's kind of like I'm just stuck in. Then it kind of feels like there's not really, I mean, for me, there's definitely like things that I want to do, but they really just revolve around helping myself and other people. There is nothing else after that. So it's kind of like, okay, well, so now what do I live for? And then it gets really depressing because it's like, now you don't really have anything. Like all you ever wanted was to get out. And you're definitely glad that you're out, but then it's still kind of like, now there's nothing to really hope for. Now there's nothing to believe for or anything. Not that you're not still getting like abused by society, obviously, but it's not constant torture like I was saying. It's not like constantly having people coming at you and doing stuff to you and being locked up or locked in a room and being R-worded or whatever the situation was for different people before they get dumped out or run away. It's not like that anymore, so now it's kind of like whatever. And then also, as I mentioned before, I'm pretty sure you now have time to think. Dang, is this throw up? You now have time to think, and it's like now you have to actually sit and really, well, nah, I feel like I was doing that more before, because like with the brain damage and the trauma, my life becomes repressed memories so quickly. I don't even remember yesterday really, but still sometimes there is time to like sit and think on the trauma. But like I said, when I first escaped, I didn't remember anything. I didn't even remember I didn't even remember what my abusers or my quote-unquote mom and dad especially sounded or looked like. I had to like go back over the abuse evidence videos and their social medias and stuff to even remember what their voices sounded like and what they looked like. I have completely forgot all of that. Like, if somebody was to ask me to point them out in like a room or point out their voice, I wouldn't have been able to do it until a little while ago, and I started going over the abuse evidence videos and stuff again. Not that I do that often, but I do get mad watching some of it, but it actually more so makes me happy because it reminds me that I have something to live for, because it reminds me of how hard I worked to get out here and why I worked so hard to get out here. Not that I ever forget or I think that I regret it. I never have ever regretted it. Not one day since being out here. The only people that regret it are people with cognitive dissonance, which I got over my cognitive dissonance and the gaslighting by 14 anyway, so I don't have to worry about any of that. And as far as like some people claim that they love their abusers or that their abusers love them, which isn't true, but some people do say that it's like hard to leave and they have guilt and they also love their abusers. Luckily, I didn't have to deal with any of that either, because there wasn't an emotional connection between any relatives, and of course there wasn't between me and the human cash cow system staff. So I didn't have to worry about that part. But it's still like, looking at the abuse evidence videos does remind me of like how hard I fought to get where I'm at now, just to get out here and to live outside. So it's like, as funny and weird as it may sound, the abuse evidence videos do actually make me feel better. I never regret anything, or I never regret leaving, but those videos definitely do remind me of why I'm out here, for just in case I ever forget, because things do become repressed memories. That's one of the many reasons that a lot of people, other than like fall into the adultism mindset, because it gives you a sense of power. That's why, another reason why a lot of people, once they get older, they start to have more cognitive dissonance. They start to go on these rants about how when you don't know how it is to be a quote-unquote grown-up, and when you have kids one day, those are people that like to lie to themselves about their abuse. Or the people that say things like, do you have kids, or something, not really that one actually, that one doesn't really fit the situation, but just different stuff like that. People like, they pretend to forget, and then others are, well, really most, because that's really how it works, they have repressed memories about all the stuff that was done to them, and so then they start to act like nothing happened to them and nothing was done to them, and they do that little cognitive dissonance, forgive others so you shall be forgiven, and it's not even real forgiveness anyways. It's just like pretending stuff didn't happen and gaslighting yourself because you don't want to make anybody look bad, or because now your parents are dead so you feel bad over the quote-unquote parent you never actually had anyways. There's no point in pretending to have anything you don't. There's no point in pretending jack or really lying to yourself about anything, but most people are always going to do it because of pride. But that's a whole other topic. But I don't know what to really do now, though. I mean, there's things I want to do, but it's still kind of like I talked about in the Young Achiever, whatever in the world it's called, playlist. It's like, I mean, there's definitely things that I want to do, but I don't really know if those things are going to be possible, if they're ever really going to happen. So it's kind of whatever. Not that I'll stop trying, but in the end, if you can at least get out the situation and have some freedom and peace, I mean, a lot of people are at least content with that. And, I mean, that definitely is the bare minimum. But that's another reason why life is a simulation. It's kind of like, I hate psych labels, but Dr. Romney has videos about narcissistic breadcrumbing. I haven't watched those in years, but, like, life is literally like a narcissistic breadcrumb. And there's a lot I could say about that. Breadcrumbing and future faking and what else? Sometimes life love bombs you. Sometimes life has you in the discard phase. But yeah, anywho, once coming outside to go back to the health thing, it was exactly like I thought it would be. I always knew that even just because of like the noises, the sunlight, etc., that once I started sleeping outside full time, it would be the one time I would finally actually really get sleep. Like, especially once I got things together where, like, I actually had a sleeping bag that was warm enough. Just having a sleeping bag in general, because I know in 2022 I didn't have any of that. Or, well, I had a tent, but those don't keep you warm. They're not waterproof. They don't really matter, to be honest. If you don't have anything else, you want a 0-degree sleeping bag and a mat. So I didn't have one at all in 2022, and it was way too cold. And that made it to where, like, I could only get sleep in the daytime, and I would lay typically in parking lots. I still like sleeping in parking lots if I can, or just on concrete, anywhere with a hard flat surface. That's actually good for you anyways. I've always liked that, even when I was staying indoors. It was better for my back even before I started to, like, get a lot of health issues, or, well, before they got worse, I guess I could say, from the iatrogenic stuff. And then oh yeah, like, just the sunlight keeping you warm, and things like that, like taking naps. I used to be in the tent at, like, in the afternoon. One thing about a tent, though, is that when you're inside and it's hot outside, it turns into an oven. And if the sun's out and it's hot, it gets so hot inside the tent you can't be in there. But it's like, staying indoors is just so bad for people's health, and they don't even realize it. And they spend most of their day and most of their life living inside of really toxic air. Like, I've even seen other people mention that once they got out here, they finally got 8+ hours to sleep. And that's something that they never got in their previous situation. And that's definitely how it goes. Like, I get way more than that typically, especially when I'm in an area where, like, police and just random people in society aren't running around looking for homeless people to harass and call the police on, and tell you that you're going to go to jail for going to sleep, and tell you that they're going to put a warrant out for all that stuff that people like to do. When I'm not in an area like that, that's way better. And it's like, once I got out here, like, I started going to sleep at 5 p.m. and 7 and stuff. And now the latest is like 8 or 9, really. But I couldn't do that in my previous situation. Like, even when the sleep deprivation abuse wasn't happening, which I really did mess a lot of stuff up for me, but even when that wasn't happening, I wasn't in a place, like, with all that going on, still just going to sleep indoors is, like, really hard, and it takes till, like, 3 a.m., but out here, I don't have that issue. Like, I get so sick indoors to where it would be hard for me to be able to be productive and really do anything, because I can't even go to sleep at night, really, and get up in the morning, because I get so sick. Not even because of the sleeping thing, but because of, like, other stuff. And then not having tonsils actually adds to it, because that's a long story, actually, but what was I going to say with that? Oh, yeah, but it's like, when I'm out here, I can actually, like, get up in the morning. Like, I get up at 6 and 7 and 8 a.m., typically, like, 6 or 7, and I'm able to, like, go do all the things that I need to do. I can't do that indoors because I get so sick and I can't even sleep at night. Which, like I keep saying, the whole not being able to sleep is still separate from how sick I actually get when I'm staying indoors. Especially actual houses and apartments. That's where, like, the air is really toxic, which I'm pretty sure I already mentioned. I'm trying to think of something else I could put in with. Oh, yeah. Like, I even wondered how many people have been thrown on psychotropics or have agreed to take neurotoxin psychotropics because they were convinced that they were quote-unquote psychotic or something because they couldn't go to sleep at night. Just because of that. Not even because of any other symptoms. Just because they can't sleep, or they were told they had insomnia. So they should take neurotoxin psychotropics. But really, they would just actually be able to go to sleep and get up in the morning earlier than they do inside if they would live outside.